All right, so here is mine and Carlos's podcast,
Hello.
and we'll be answering or discussing the
Social progress of disobedience.
right and the role disobedience plays in our society. I guess we'll start by just talking about what we each wrote in our essays, and it's kind of interesting because we both wrote about the both different sides of it. I discussed more the social change it brought and the kind of the good that disobedience, that the like social, that the disobedience like has served in society. And Carlos, you focused more on the other side.
I've focused more on the violent side of the disobedience. I used like the Salem witch trials, John Brown, and the Pullman strike during those union strikes that was happening. I forgot what era, but
Yeah, and I focused, like some of the examples I used were some like the civil rights, Rosa Parks and Malcolm X, and also the women's suffrage in the early 1900s. And I just thought that I thought Rosa Parks was a great one because her disobedience in when she refused to, as we all know, when she refused to give up her seat and move to the back, that was a huge part of the civil rights movement, and caused I don't know what you'd say, like maybe I guess maybe inspired a lot of the African American community to fight for civil rights, and it moved it created a lot of progress in the civil rights movement.
Okay. So the reason I chose the Salem witch trials is because many people ended up dying because everyone in Massachusetts thought everyone was a witch, even their own neighbors. And it all sparked from these kids being a little bit disobedient. They wouldn't listen to the old lady that was taking care of them. And that's what caused her to say, hey, I'm a witch. I'm going to eat your parents or something like that. And that scared the children. They came running back to their house, to tell their parents, They didn't believe them. They were just children. But then, bad luck started happening over at Salem.
Salem, yeah.
Mm-hmm. and then that's when every people in the town started to think like the old lady put a curse in the town, and that's what caused the whole trials and all that. A bunch of people getting hanged, killed, because everyone thought they were witches.
Yeah, so like a lot of people suffer because of the disobedience of few is kind of which is a great point.
It only takes one person to
right. Yeah, there is definitely like a big give and take when it comes to disobedience. I feel like there are a lot of examples where like where it can go really well, and like the civil rights, I think a lot of us will agree that was a necessary point for disobedience, to create social progress, to create equality and whatnot. But then there are all the other examples on the other side, like Carlos is mentioning, where the disobedience of few can cause the suffering of others, right? And so there is definitely a give and take. Well,
what else are we going to talk about?
Great question. What are some, I guess we can talk about, so what other example did you use in the Salem witch trials? Was
other than the Salem witch trials, I used John Brown and the Union strike in Pullman. I like more. I'm gonna talk about more of the Union strike on Pullman because that was a crazy strike. So these people lived in Pullman, right?
Mm.
They worked, and then they lived there in their workplace. The owners kept raising their property tax, more rent, more everything.
Right.
They paid them less. And that's what caused them to join like the union laborers, I think it was called.
Mm.
And that's when they decided to do a strike. I think it was known as the Wildcat strike, if I remember right. But yeah, they did that strike, and it got very violent. That even like the police had to be called to go stop it.
Right.
It wasn't like a peaceful protest, but
Right. Yeah.
So, they got what they wanted. They striked. They did everything. And that caused the people that were in the strikes to get fired. So they were all happy.
It was kind of like a lose.
Yeah, it was already a lose by then.
Yeah.
Because then, just a while later, they wanted to go back to work at Pullman.
Mm.
So then the owner said, you either leave the union laborers and you
work
stay
for
with
me
her.
or whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, it was kind of a lost situation. It got violent for no reason because they didn't get what they wanted.
Mm.
Probably lowered some of it, but some of the rent, but not as much as they would probably want. And I mean, they still had to leave the union labor, so that was still pretty lost.
Another example, a more modern and recent example is of civil disobedience and just disobedience in general was with the civil, not the civil rights, the Black Lives
Matter
movement, right? Because on both sides of you have the Democrats and the Republicans, and the Republicans think that was there was more violence, and it just seemed that the rights were just there were the violent ones were the violence wasn't necessarily used to create social change and to move forward. It was more just for the sake of violence and looting and whatnot, while the Democrats think, well, no, it was that they viewed the violence as a necessary tool to change, to show that they're not okay with it. So they're and it's just one side against the other, right? Just kind of showing that that not everyone's gonna there are a lot of events
where there's different sides,
right? Exactly. It's not it's gonna be one side's gonna think, well, that this isn't necessary, this isn't gonna create social change, this is only gonna create destruction, and while the other side of course thinks it's gonna it's progress and it'll accomplish something. So
that actually kind of goes well with the whole John Brown thing.
Right, exactly.
Because every African American saw him more as this hero, because he wanted to fight for slavery. He didn't believe in all those speeches, protests. He thought violence could get it,
right?
And that's when he did that whole raid, which caused many deaths. But he got executed, and nothing really happened until a few hundred years later, when people started to do all that movement to I forgot what was it, Dr. Luther King, I think. I think he did an example. He praised John Brown, but I don't know. I kind of found him more as a madman, because he thought he was sent from God, to end slavery and all that. And I'm like, that's a bit crazy, but okay.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely two sides to every coin when it comes, so I think we discussed and talked about the question.
Yes.
So, thank you, Mr. Kapner, and whoever listens to this on YouTube, for listening to Carlos's and mine's podcast.
Yes, thank you.